What if Rimuru reincarnated to Arifureta A Tensura x Arifureta crossover? Rimuru Tempest, the supreme ruler of Tempest, has grown bored with his peaceful daily life and unending paperwork. Seeking a fresh start, he decides to reincarnate into another world. Reborn as the twin brother of Hajime Nagumo, Rimuru gets caught up in the sudden summonings and dark plots of a foreign land, ultimately meddling in the events of Arifureta, from Commonplace to World's Strongest. Prologue. Hello, it's me, Rimuru Tempest, the demon lord slime well known for world domination. At the moment, I am experiencing the biggest bout of boredom in my life. It has been several years since the final battle against Yuki. That fight was quite difficult, and it took a long time to repair all the damage. Eventually, the world stabilized, and now everyone can live in peace. What do I think about this? It is boring. My subordinates take care of everything for me, so I have nothing to do. Our civilization is not that evolved, so it is not like I can play video games. The only time I am entertained is when I am with a certain person. Today, I decided to do something to escape this boredom. I spoke with my skill Sile, who is the smartest person I know. Sile then suggested an idea. I gathered all my executives and important friends in the boardroom. Everyone was sitting at a large table, and I stood up to speak. Okay, I am going to be reincarnated in another world, I declared, as if it were something completely normal. Just as I expected, it caused chaos. Who? Everyone made dumbfounded expressions and let out confused groans. Their reaction was understandable since I had not mentioned it beforehand. Rimuru-sama, what do you mean? Rigard came forward and asked. The others also seemed eager to understand. Exactly what I said. I've been bored, and these last few years I've wanted a more lively life. Don't worry, I will come back in a maximum of 100 years and leave everything here with you. I will also leave contact methods in case of emergencies. I talked to Sile and was told that since I am a higher level spirit form, I don't need a physical body to travel. So, I will reincarnate by transferring myself into a human body in my old world. I explained, and everyone looked thoughtful. Some of them appeared reluctant, but no one tried to stop me. That was the tip Sile gave me to escape my boredom. I didn't know which universe I would be reincarnated into because I left everything to Sile, but since I trust Sile, I knew it would be a great life. Shin and Diawolo came closer and bowed deeply. Rimuru-sama, allow us to go together, they spoke in unison. I rejected it on the spot. I didn't want them doing everything for me in the other world, or I would probably get bored all over again. No, this is something I want to do alone. Besides, I need you guys to take care of things here. They looked reluctant but did not object to my words. They raised their heads and returned to their seats. The others also seemed to want to tag along, but said nothing. Okay then, I'll say goodbye to everyone and leave tomorrow. I will leave an unmoving clone that you can control so my trip doesn't become public. The meeting is adjourned. I left a clone so as not to make anything public. If the most powerful demon lord was known to be away, several rebellions could break out, which would be problematic. I said goodbye to several key people who needed to know. The rest I left with my subordinates, as I have extreme confidence in them. By the way, when I told my friend Veldora about my trip, his reaction was, "Kuahaha, don't worry. As long as I'm here, nothing will happen." That line was typical of him, so I just smiled and agreed. A day later, I said goodbye and started the reincarnation process. I won't explain the exact mechanics because when Sile explained it to me, even I didn't fully understand. I just said, reincarnate me into a fun life, and the process started. Producing new body. Age, 1 day. Gender, none. Wait, Sile-san, it's going to be weird if I am a genderless human. Make me a male body. Sile-san? Sile-san. Okay. Lately, I've been thinking Sile acts like the jealous girls close to me. But there's no way my ability is in love with me, right? Right. algorithmically blushing. I thought Sile was acting weird, but I assumed it was just my imagination. Sile then continued the process. Male body formed. Baby size. World, Earth. Country of origin, Japan. Parents' names, Nagumo Shu and Nagumo Sumaya. Okay, it looks like a normal family. I wonder why you said it would be a fun life, Sile-san. It's because? Actually, don't tell me. I don't want spoilers for my new life. Okay. Rimuru told Sile not to reveal too much so life wouldn't lose its mystery. Sile, as always, followed his orders without objection. Body ready. Reincarnation started. When I opened my eyes, I saw a hospital room. I was expecting this since I was reincarnated as a baby. The strange thing was that I heard another baby crying. Before I could look around, I felt someone patting me on the back. Is this the part where I cry? I thought, and started to act it out. Boo-ah, boo-ah, boo-ah. I did the best fake cry I could so they wouldn't think I was a strange baby. Meanwhile, I heard my new parents talking. Honey, it's 2 boys, just like I said it would be. Since I guessed right, they will have the names I chose, okay? Do you want to hold them? Yes. As I suspected, the other crying came from my twin brother. My parents seemed to have gambled on our gender before birth, making me realize this family might not be as normal as I thought. I was still faking my crying when the doctor placed me in my mother's arms. I looked at her, analyzing her appearance. Hi there. You'll be called Rimuru from now on. You are so beautiful, so cute, and those eyes are golden. My brother's name was Hajime, and mine was Rimuru. Sile must have used some mental induction to ensure my name stayed the same. I decided to keep my original facial features, so my mother was quite surprised by my golden eyes. She will probably freak out when my blue hair starts to grow. I hope they don't think I am some kind of alien baby. And so, my new life began. Chapter 1, Invocation. Monday. The worst day of the week. Many people sighed at the thought of that day, and one young man was no exception. Nagumo Hajime was an ordinary high school student who hated school, viewing it as a dark place that constantly let him down. As always, when the bell rang, he crept into the classroom, opened the door, and walked in. At that moment, several students clicked their tongues and looked at him with contempt. The female students didn't show any friendly expressions either. Hajime tried to ignore them and sat in his seat, but as usual, nosy chatter started up behind him. Oi, oi, disgusting otaku! You played games all night again, didn't you? Were they erotic games? Ew, so gross. Erotic games all night? Shame on you. Is it really that funny to laugh? Hajime thought angrily. The first person to ridicule Hajime was Hayama Daisuke. He was the main bully who picked on Hajime every day, accompanied by Saito Yoshiki, Kondo Reikai, and Nakono Shinji. They were the typical group of bullies you see in movies or manga. Hajime was indeed an otaku, but neither his appearance nor his behavior was disgusting. With short hair and well-groomed student clothes, he had a completely average appearance. People offended him out of pure spite. Why did the whole class hate him? The reason was simple or her. Good morning, Nagumo-kun. Late as usual. You should try coming early. A female student smiled happily as she approached Hajime. Everyone who hated Hajime did so because of this girl. Kori Shirasaki was one of the most beautiful girls in the school. She was always kind, treated everyone well, carried a bright smile, and had a great sense of responsibility. She was considered a goddess by the boys at school, but to Hajime, her presence was absolute torture. She talked more with Hajime than with other students, which implied she was interested in him. Hajime didn't think so. There was no reason for the school goddess to like an average guy like him. Hajime had plain looks and average grades, making the other boys envious and furious, thinking, why him? The students felt Kaori was wasting her time on him, which is why they glared at Hajime constantly. "Good morning, Shirasaki-san. Where is that murderous intent coming from?" Hajime could only manage a fake smile as everyone glared at him with contempt. After hearing his greeting, Kaori showed a happy expression. "Why are you so happy?" Hajime wanted to ask, but doing so would make the class's hostility double. Even Hajime didn't know why Kaori cared so much about him, especially when she was always surrounded by admirers. Then, lucky for Hajime, 3 more people arrived to make the situation worse. "Good morning, Nagumo-kun. Isn't it hard dealing with this every day? Is Kaori taking care of him again? She really is too kind. This guy is useless no matter what you tell him." The girl who greeted him was Shizuku Yogashi, a beautiful girl with a long ponytail that was her trademark. She was another goddess of the school. Elegant in her posture and behavior, her family ran a famous kendo dojo. Many girls idolized her, and she even had her own fan club. Shizuku was one of the few people in the room who didn't hate Hajime. She was Kaori's best friend, and unlike the airheaded Kaori, Shizuku understood what Hajime was going through and tried to help. Next to her, speaking in an arrogant tone, was Amanagawa Kuki, excellent grades, a star athlete, kind to everyone, and possessing an overbearing sense of justice. He was a national-level athlete at the Yogashi Dojo, just like his childhood friend Shizuku. The other student mocking Hajime was Sakagami Ryutaru. Kuki's best friend, he was part of the karate dojo, very muscular, and not particularly smart, leading many to view him as a muscle brain. "Good morning Yogashi-san, Sakagami-kun, Amanagawa-kun. As they say, you reap what you sow, so there's no helping it," Hajime said with a wry smile. "Who gave you the right to talk to Yogashi-san? I'll kill you." That was the feeling radiating from the classroom. Kuki warned Hajime not to take advantage of Kaori's kindness. Hajime didn't want Kaori's attention in the first place, but he couldn't argue with Kuki without infuriating Kuki's massive fan base. "Kuki-kun, what are you saying?" "I was just talking to Nagumo-kun," Kaori protested. "Seriously, Kaori is too kind," Kuki sighed. The classroom was bursting with hostility directed at one person, and then the door opened for another source of trouble. "Yo, Hajime-kun and everyone. Sorry I'm late." It was Nagumo Rimuru, Hajime's twin brother. With long blue hair, golden eyes, and a strikingly handsome, slightly androgynous appearance, many students considered him as attractive as the school goddesses. He was intelligent, great at sports, and was the only person in the Yogashi dojo who had defeated Shizuku multiple times. He was the kind of person who made others say to Hajime, "Why aren't you more like your brother?" Hajime didn't hate his brother, though. Rimuru disliked it when people made those comparisons, was an otaku just like Hajime, and played games with him constantly. Even though Rimuru was popular, he didn't get along with Kuki, which caused some people to dislike him. Hajime didn't need to ask why Rimuru disliked Kuki. Kuki's self-righteous attitude was naturally annoying. One thing that always confused Hajime was Rimuru's natural blue hair and golden eyes. Hajime had never heard of anyone else with those features. When Hajime once asked their mother if Rimuru's hair was ever examined by a doctor, she panicked, saying, "Of course not. The government would take him away for experiments." Hajime thought that was an exaggeration, but it was never brought up again. When Hajime asked his brother directly, Rimuru simply denied knowing anything about it. Rimuru once told the class that he was an otaku too, but no one believed him, assuming he said it just to boost Hajime's reputation. Back in the present, a lot of the murderous intent in the room dispersed as people looked away. This was due to an incident a while back when Hajime was being cornered by Hayama's gang. Rimuru had stepped in and asked them nicely to leave. When Kondo threatened him, Rimuru's gentle smile turned into a cold, emotionless stare. He effortlessly knocked out all four bullies without taking a single scratch. Since many students saw it happen, the class remained terrified of him. After that day, Hajime asked Rimuru not to step in anymore because it resulted in people calling Hajime a coward who hid behind his brother. Rimuru sat back in his seat, stretched out in his chair, and dropped a verbal bomb. Wow, those two are flirting again. He spoke in a natural tone, making Hajime internally scream, "Couldn't you have stayed quiet?" The temperature in the room plummeted, and the envious glances toward Hajime multiplied. "Phut," Shizuku snickered. She and Rimuru were good friends since he had trained at her family's dojo since childhood. Kaori was also close with Rimuru, and upon hearing his words, she panicked. "What are you talking about, Rimuru-kun? I was just talking to Nagumo-kun." She looked at Hajime, blushed, and quickly returned to her seat while several students clicked their tongues in disgust. By the way, the reason Kaori called Hajime Nagumo-kun was to avoid confusion, since both brothers shared the same last name. Rimuru had asked everyone to call him by his first name instead. The school bell rang, and the teacher walked in. Accustomed to the tense atmosphere, she began roll call, and class started. Hajime promptly fell asleep on his desk while Kaori watched with a smile. Hajime woke up during lunch break and grabbed his bento. Looking around, he noticed many students had gone to the cafeteria, leaving only a third of the class and their teacher, Hatayama Aiko, in the room. Hajime finished his lunch in 10 seconds flat. Just then, Kaori sat down beside him with a bright smile. "This is terrible," Hajime thought. "Nagumo-kun, why don't you come and have lunch with us?" A dangerous aura filled the room once more. Hajime groaned internally, wishing Kaori would read the room. "Thanks for the offer, Shirasaki-san, but I'm already done eating. Why don't you join Amanagawa and the others?" However, Kaori pushed on. "Eh? Was that all you ate? You need to eat more. Here, I'll share some of mine with you." "Please pay attention to your surroundings," Hajime muttered under his breath. The chill down Hajime's spine grew worse as Kuki approached the table. "Kaori, let's eat together. I won't allow someone like Nagumo to eat your delicious homemade food." How can he say that with a smile? Hajime thought. "Eh? Why do I need your permission?" Kaori asked, genuinely confused. "Phut." Rimuru and Shizuku tried to stifle their laughter but failed. Kaori's blunt response was completely innocent, yet entirely accurate. Now the most popular students were gathered around Hajime's desk, drawing hostile stares from the rest of the room. Hajime sighed, looking for an excuse to escape, but stopped dead in his tracks. A glowing magic circle suddenly expanded across the floor beneath their feet. Surprised by the magic circle, Rimuru activated his thought acceleration ability. "Sile-san, what is this magic circle?" Analysis complete. The magic type is unidentified, but according to language standards, it reads summoning the dot. So we are being summoned to another world? And what do you mean by unknown magic? Aren't you supposed to be the master analyst who knows everything about magic? Sile seemed slightly offended by his tone. Rimuru quickly rephrased his question. "Why don't you understand this magic? This magic pattern is unlike that of any world we have previously visited. I cannot fully comprehend its structure until I perform further tests." "I see. A new world, huh? This could be fun. Wait, Sile-san, did you know this was going to happen? Is that why you reincarnated me into this specific life?" That silence is sparing me, but let's set that aside. The main problem is dealing with unknown magic. I could easily escape this circle, but I might not be able to locate my classmates afterward. Letting ourselves be transported seems like the best option. Agreed. If Sile-san agrees, then let's go. Rimuru deactivated thought acceleration, and the magic circle flashed with blinding intensity. In an instant, every student in the classroom vanished. Chapter 2, Tortoise. Hajime squeezed his eyes shut against the blinding light. When he opened them, the first thing he saw was a 10-meter mural depicting a blond man with a halo behind his back. Looking around, he realized they were standing in a grand marble hall. Checking on his classmates, he confirmed that Kaori and Rimuru were safe. Beyond his peers, 30 people were kneeling before them in the hall. They wore white robes with faint blue accents. The man leading them wore ornate priest vestments and held a wooden staff in his right hand. He stepped forward and spoke in a solemn, respectful voice. "Welcome to Tortoise, Hero-sama and his companions. I am Ishtar, Pope of the Church of the Saints. Let us work together from this moment on." Rimuru remained completely calm. In his home world, summoning rituals required 30 mags or one exceptionally powerful caster. These people didn't seem immediately malicious, as they introduced themselves politely without attempting to cast an enslavement curse on the group. The students were led to a luxurious dining hall featuring a long table. Teacher Aiko and Kuki's group sat near Pope Ishtar, while Hajime sat at the far end with Rimuru beside him. The doors opened, and attractive maids arrived to serve water. The teenage boys stared with wide eyes, while the girls shot them icy looks. Hajime looked briefly at the maid serving him, but stopped when he felt a terrifying glare from Kaori. Rimuru, on the other hand, was completely unbothered. He was used to being served by beauties in his original world, and besides, he already had a partner back home with whom he kept in touch. Ishtar addressed the room so everyone could hear. "I know you are all confused, so allow me to explain." He laid out the structure of their new world. Tortoise was inhabited by 3 major races: demons, humans, and demi-humans. The races lived separately and were locked in constant conflict. Humans were superior in numbers, demons possessed immense physical strength and magic, while demi-humans were nearly invincible within their natural habitats. The war between humans and demons had reached a stalemate, but the demons had recently managed to tame magical beasts, tipping the balance of power entirely in their favor. That is why Ihitsama summoned you to save humanity from the demon army. Because you hail from another world and crossed the dimensional barrier, you possess power far exceeding the people of this land. You are our salvation. Ishtar claimed that an oracle had conveyed Ehid's divine will. Both Hajime and Rimuru felt skeptical about this will of God, suspecting the church was using religion to manipulate the situation. Rimuru considered whether the church had summoned them purely for their own agenda, using their god as an excuse. Sile confirmed that Ishtar was not explicitly lying, meaning he genuinely believed what he was saying, even if his beliefs were factually wrong. Teacher Aiko stood up, furious. "Please stop this nonsense. These children are not going to fight in a war. I will not allow it. Send us back immediately. This is kidnapping." Though young and inexperienced, Aiko was a dedicated teacher who prioritized her students' safety. However, Ishtar's response shut her down completely. "Unfortunately, we have no method to send you back to your original world." Panic swept through the room. Even Rimuru was surprised. Normally, he could cross dimensions freely, but Sile spoke up in his mind. "Unfortunately, I cannot return us to our universe at this time." "What?" "The magic that brought us here functions under entirely different space-time laws. This universe is currently disconnected from the worlds we know. Unless we analyze the specific magic of this world, returning through standard means is impossible. Can you at least contact the others back home?" "No. The only viable option would be to replicate the summoning circle to pull someone from your original universe here." While Rimuru processed this information, the rest of the students began to panic, shouting at Ishtar and demanding a way home. Ishtar watched them with a calm, almost condescending gaze, clearly believing they should feel honored to serve his god. Kuki slammed his fist onto the table and stood up. "Everyone, calm down. There is no reason to cause a scene in front of Ishtar-san. He hasn't done anything wrong to us. I will fight. If humanity needs help, I cannot turn my back on them. If God brought us here to save people, he will surely send us home once the war is won. Right, Ishtar-san?" "Indeed. Ihitsama will surely grant the desires of his saviors," Ishtar replied smoothly. Kuki spoke with absolute confidence, blissfully unaware of how naive he was being. I'll use this power to save this world, just watch. Kuki declared. I knew you'd say that, Ryutaru laughed. It'd be dangerous for you to go alone. I'm fighting too. We don't have much choice, Shizuku sighed. Count me in. If Shizuku-chan is going, then I am too, Kaori added. With the most popular students agreeing to fight, the rest of the class quickly caved to the peer pressure and agreed as well. Are they serious? Do they even know what war actually means? Rimuru thought, looking over at Hajime, who had his head in his hands. Aiko tried her best to persuade the students against fighting, but her protests were ignored. Since the students agreed to participate in the war, they required combat and magic training before facing the demons and magical beasts. They were informed that they were currently in the Hylian Kingdom, a nation deeply tied to the church due to legends claiming its founder was a direct descendant of Ehit. Before beginning their training, the group visited the Mountain of God, the highest peak in the world. They were transported there instantly via a magical portal, leaving the students in awe. From the summit, they could view the entire capital, which was filled with grand cathedrals and towering stone architecture. To Hajime, the country felt uncomfortably reminiscent of historical feudal regimes where religion held absolute power over politics. Next, they visited the royal palace to meet the monarchy. Knights and servants bowed respectfully as they passed, referring to them as apostles of God, which made many of the students uncomfortable. Inside the throne room, King Elihide and Queen Luluaria greeted them with extreme deference. Behind the throne stood 10-year-old Prince Randall and 15-year-old Princess Liliana. Liliana engaged the group in polite conversation, while Randall focused almost entirely on flirting with Kaori. The male students shot envious glares at the young prince, though Hajime found their jealousy ridiculous. Rimuru, Hajime, and Shizuku all noted how subservient the king appeared toward Pope Ishtar, further proving the church held the real power in the kingdom. After a massive feast featuring Western-style dishes, the students were escorted to luxury accommodations. Exhausted from the overwhelming events of the day, they retired to their beds and fell asleep. Chapter 3, Status. Currently, all the students were at the training camp. They woke up early, had breakfast, and were introduced to the head knight, Meld Loggins, who would be training them from now on. Meld handed each of the students a transparent plate measuring 12 by 7 centimeters. The head knight began his explanation. Okay, everyone received one of these plaques. It's called a status card. It is the most reliable of identity cards. As long as you have one, you will not be in danger even if you get lost. Any questions? Seeing that everyone understood, he continued. We'll be buddies from now on, so you don't need to use honorifics with me or with the other knights. This was a good thing for the students. They didn't like being treated too politely, and Meld seemed to have realized this. Spill a drop of blood in the magic circle next to the plaque, and then you will be registered as the owner of the plaque. Once the words show status are spoken, you will be able to see your own status. That is the power of one of the divine artifacts. Divine artifacts? Kuki asked, unfamiliar with the phrase. The other students also wore confused expressions. They are powerful tools that cannot be recreated by modern means. Legends say they were created by God during the ancient era. The status plate is the only one that can be recreated, which is great because it is a wonderful ID card that we distribute to the general public. The students nodded in understanding, then winced as their fingers were pierced by needles. Hajime did the same, and when the magic circle glowed, it displayed his status. Name: Nagumo Hajime. Age: 17 years old. Class: Synergist. Level: 1. Strength: 10. Vitality: 10. Stamina: 10. Agility: 10. Magic power: 10. Magic resistance: 10. Abilities: transmutation, language comprehension. The students thought, it looks like a video game, as they analyzed their statuses. I will explain about your statuses, Meld continued. First, the level. It will increase when your other stats increase. The maximum level is 100 for humans, but no one has ever reached this level. You can think of level as a means to judge a person's potential. Training will naturally increase your status, and artifacts will also increase it. You will have access to artifacts later. For now, let's train to increase your stats. Apparently, the level increased when your other stats increased, and not the other way around like in video games. Meld kept speaking. Next is class. It is intertwined with your abilities. Some classes can be unmatched, and others not so much. There are also some classes that are rare and some that are common. Then he asked the students to show their statuses. That's bad, Rimuru thought. He looked at his own status and realized that it was far above average, meaning that this artifact could measure his real strength. Sile-san, can you fake my status? Analyzing. Need more time. Can't you just stop time then? Rimuru found it strange that Sile said more time was needed and offered a suggestion, but Sile answered. Warning, it is not possible. What? What do you mean it's not possible? The time flow of this universe is different from the time flow of our universe, as are the space-time laws. Therefore, the space-time ability of a void god Azathoth is unusable. So I can't teleport either. Correct. That's bad. Hey, wait! That time we were being summoned, why didn't you go back in time? At that moment, the Master's body was already in contact with the time stream of this universe. Really? Yes. Then why the delay in answering? There was no delay. He took his time again. Rimuru said in his thoughts. Sile-san, you're not making this up just to avoid admitting you wanted to come on an adventure in another universe, are you? Of course not. Rimuru was almost sure he was being tricked, but he knew Sile wouldn't do anything to hurt him, so he let it go. Okay, let's ignore it and get to the more pressing problem. My status. Analysis completed. Starting forgery. Completed. Phew. Rimuru turned off thought acceleration and listened to Meld continue his explanation. Normal people at level 1 have their stats around 10 points, but you all must have much higher numbers. Who? My stats are all 10 points. Aren't we supposed to be overpowered? Hajime thought. But when he looked around, he saw everyone talking and bragging about their stats. Is it just me? Hajime lamented internally. After that, the first to present his status card was Kuki. Name, Amanagawa Kuki. Age, 17 years old. Class, Hero. Level, 1. Strength, 100. Vitality, 100. Stamina, 100. Agility, 100. Magic power, 100. Magic resistance, 100. Abilities, aptitude with all elements, resistance to all elements, fencing, physical resistance, teleportation, Herculean strength, high-speed magical recovery, presence detection, magic detection, overcome threshold, language comprehension. That's the definition of cheating. Who? A real hero. Level 1 and already has 3 digits. The number of skills is astonishing too. Sounds very reliable. After those words, Kuki scratched his head shyly. By the way, the commander's level was 62 and his stats were around 300. However, Kuki was only level 1 and already had 1/3 of that strength. Kuki was truly special. Meld was all smiles looking at the student statuses, but when Hajime brought him his status board, Meld let out a confused groan and tapped the plate a few times. Maybe he thought it was defective. After realizing that the plate wasn't broken, Meld spoke up. How should I put it? Synergist represents a crafting profession. Plus it's very convenient for forging weapons and armor. Of course, the bullies were not going to miss this opportunity. Laughing mockingly, Hayama shouted. Hey, Nagumo! Did you take a non-combatant class? How is a craftsman going to fight? Meld-san, is that class rare? Well, no. All the craftsmen in the kingdom have this class. Hey, how are you going to fight like that, Nagumo? Hayama seemed to enjoy having another opportunity to mock Hajime. Hajime gave a wry smile and replied, "How will I know if I don't try?" "Oh. Let's see your stats then." Hayama's gang joined him. They were the kind of lowlifes who preyed on the weak. Looking around, several students wore disgruntled expressions. After seeing Hajime's status board, Hayama's gang burst out. "Pa-ha-ha-ha-ha! What's this? It's completely standard. Ha-ha-ha, he must be weaker than a child." Kaori angrily started toward the students who were mocking Hajime, but before she could reach them, another person stepped in angrily, Teacher Aiko. "What are you laughing at? I won't let you continue this. Give back Nagumo-kun's status plate." They reluctantly handed over the status plate. Aiko then tried to cheer Hajime up. "Nagumo-kun, look. Don't worry, I'm also a non-combatant. You don't have to worry about being the only one in this situation." She showed her status board. Name, Hatayama Aiko. Age, 25 years old. Class, Farmer. Level, 1. Strength, 5. Vitality, 10. Stamina, 10. Agility, 5. Magic power, 100. Magic resistance, 10. Abilities, soil management, ground restoration, long-range restoration, plant evaluation, fertilizer creation, self-harvesting, fertilizing operation, farm improvement, language comprehension. Hajime stared at the board without saying anything. "Nagumo-kun, what's the matter?" It was true that her class was a non-combatant, but her magic power was as high as Kuki's and she had several abilities. So even though she was a non-combatant, she was still much stronger than Hajime. Aiko was confused by Hajime's reaction. "Ara, that was the final blow, sensei." Anyway, that made Hajime's confidence drop, though not as much as the next event. HMPH. Captain Meld pretended to cough to attract attention. Everyone turned to look at him. "Is someone else missing?" "Ah, you with the blue hair in the back there, come forward. You're the only one left." "Ah, okay. Rimuru seemed reluctant to hand over the plate, but he handed it over anyway. Hajime noticed that Rimuru was secretly glancing at him. Meld swallowed dryly. He stared perplexed at the status plate while tapping it and holding it up to the light to see it better. When they saw Meld's reaction, the students thought, are both brothers going to be useless? But Meld's reaction was for the exact opposite reason. Name, Nagumo Rimuru. Age, 17. Class, Chaos Creator. Level, 1. Strength, 500. Vitality, 500. Stamina, 500. Agility, 500. Magic power, 500. Magic resistance, 500. Abilities, mana materialization, manipulation of all elements, chant nullification, magic circle nullification, fencing, max level, predator, separate space, great sage, absolute barrier, resistance to poisons, resistance to magic attacks, resistance to physical attacks, resistance to spiritual attacks. That was the status Sile had forged for Rimuru. Sile didn't have much time, so the stats were still far above average. Well, that's... Meld-san, what happened? Meld-san, are you okay? Meld broke into a cold sweat and didn't move a muscle. His reaction was understandable, since the boy in front of him was already the strongest person in the kingdom. Not only that, he was only at level 1, meaning he could become absurdly powerful. The students were worried when they saw Meld's pale face. Pulling himself together, Meld said, "No, I'm fine. I just thought I couldn't be surprised anymore after the hero, but this boy is really unbelievable." Meld pointed to Rimuru, who whistled and looked up at the sky as if to say, "I don't know anything." "Eh?" Shizuku peeked at Rimuru's status plate and let out a surprised gasp. "Wow, Rimuru-kun is really strong." After that, everyone was so curious to see the status plate that had caused such a reaction that they forgot all about Hajime's stats. Chapter 4: The Slime Demon Lord. 2 weeks had passed since it became known that Hajime was the weakest of them all. Hajime trained as much as possible, and the rest of his time was spent reading about the world to gather more information than the church provided. Hajime sighed after reading his book. He stood up and checked his status card. Name: Nagumo Hajime. Age: 17. Class: Synergist. Level: 2. Strength: 12. Vitality: 12. Stamina: 12. Agility: 12. Magic power: 12. Magic resistance: 12. This was the result of 2 weeks of hard work. Ridiculous! Let's compare this with Kuki. Name: Amanagawa Kuki. Age: 17. Class: Hero. Level: 10. Strength: 200. Vitality: 200. Stamina: 200. Agility: 200. Magic power: 200. Magic resistance: 200. His growth rate was frightening. Rimuru didn't like to show his status board, so no one knew how much he had grown. Hajime had overheard Kuki saying something like, "No one sees him training." He must be arrogant because of his initial stats, but it's obvious we'll surpass him. He seemed a little jealous of Rimuru's strength. By the way, Rimuru did train, Hajime just didn't know where. Hajime and Rimuru were the early risers and always saw each other when leaving their room, but Hajime had no idea where Rimuru went to practice. He never looks tired. It's almost as if he doesn't need sleep, Hajime thought. Hajime had discovered that his affinity for magic was very low. To cast a spell, more mana was spent, and larger, more complex magic circles were required. Spoken chants also needed to be much longer. Basically, Hajime was terrible at magic. After reading more about this world, Hajime wondered if he should run away and travel. He had no attachment to this war, but he abandoned the idea after realizing that with his current strength, he would die to the first magical beast or bandit he encountered. Hajime considered asking his brother to come along, but Rimuru had friends among the students, and Hajime didn't think Rimuru would want to abandon them. Besides, Hajime didn't want to depend on Rimuru for everything. Hajime also wanted to return home, and he could only do that if he participated in the war. Actually, what I want most is to see demi-humans. Imagine a girl with rabbit ears, Hajime muttered to himself. However, the church taught that demi-humans were a god-forsaken race, making it rare to see one in the kingdom. The church claimed this because demi-humans couldn't use magic. Since the church held that magic was created by God, everyone in the High Kingdom looked down on demi-humans. The Holsha Empire, a human nation to the east, used demi-humans as slaves, but the church's influence in the kingdom was so strong that people refused to use them even as slaves because they hated having them around. Hajime was currently reading about the Great Dungeons. Few had been discovered, but reports suggested there were 7 main ones in total. As for morning training with Captain Meld, today was their first session with magical beasts. They brought weakened magical beasts for the students to defeat on the field. For the others, it was an easy task. For Hajime? It was a disaster. Well, I'm going to read a bit more and then go train in an hour, Hajime thought, returning to his book. Meanwhile, Rimuru was heading off to train. Not his original magic, of course, Rimuru had complete control over that. He was practicing the magic of this world. Or rather, conducting magic experiments for Sile to analyze. Sile would say things like, combine these 2 magic incantations, or construct this magic circle, and Rimuru would test them out. Sile mentioned that unraveling the laws and magic of this universe was quite complicated, even suggesting there might be interference from a high-level being in this universe. Rimuru dismissed the idea, as no one in this world knew the extent of his true power. Rimuru usually trained at an abandoned practice ground where no one could see him experimenting with high-level magic. But today, his magical perception skill detected someone already there. In the stands, Rimuru saw a beautiful girl with a ponytail, curled up and crying quietly. Rimuru recognized her as Shizuku Yogashi. "Yogashi-san, are you okay? What happened?" It was obvious she wasn't okay, so Rimuru stepped forward to ask. "Who?" "I. Rimuru-kun. Don't worry, I'm fine. How did you find me here? How can I not worry about you? You're hiding here crying." Rimuru wanted to say, but thought it best not to push too hard. "I train here, so that's why I came by." "Why are you crying? You can talk to me, you know. We've been friends for a long time." Shizuku seemed reluctant to speak, but was encouraged by his words. "Yeah. It's just that I can't stop thinking about the feeling." "The feeling?" "Of taking a life." "Ah." Rimuru understood. Today's morning training involved fighting magical beasts to the death, and Shizuku was clearly struggling with it. "I see. Are you feeling guilty about taking a life, or is it something else?" "No, it's just..." Tears began to stream down her face. She looked deeply distressed. "I don't know if I'm ready for war. I don't want to go around killing people I don't even know. I've always wanted to do good, but now I'm preparing to kill people in someone else's war, and I don't know what I should do." Rimuru hummed thoughtfully. "You know, at times like this, it can help to hear about other people's experiences. Shizuku-chan, can I tell you a story?" "Ooh? I guess so." Shizuku was confused, but let Rimuru speak. Once upon a time, there was a very clever slime. This slime became friends with a powerful dragon and received his blessing. The dragon's blessing, combined with his own power, allowed him to build a new city for monsters that eventually became a prosperous country. But then, a neighboring nation led by a greedy king took advantage of a time when the slime ruler was away to attack his nation. Shizuku listened quietly, a bit puzzled. Rimuru wore a serious expression as he told the story, so she didn't interrupt. The invaders killed several inhabitants before he returned, including some of the slime's close friends. The slime suffered deeply from the loss, but he didn't lose his mind in anger. Instead, when he learned that 20,000 enemy soldiers were marching toward his kingdom, he decided to use them. Use them? The story was getting stranger to Shizuku. Yes. For an ancient ritual that had only a tiny chance of working. But to perform the ritual, he needed 10,000 souls. So he put all his faith into that chance. The slime used his power to strike down his enemies and harvest their souls. He performed the ritual, and it worked. From that day on, he became known as a demon lord. But no matter what people thought of him for his actions, he didn't care, because his friends and his country were safe. "Is that the end?" Shizuku asked, still trying to grasp the point. "No, there's much more to it, but this is the part that matters." The slime decided what was most important to him. "What do you mean?" He didn't worry about whether it was right or wrong in other people's eyes, nor did he prioritize the many over the few. He simply decided to prioritize the people who mattered most to him, the ones he swore to protect. "Ah. I think if you decide what matters most to you, you can figure out what path you want to take from here on. And if you ever need my help, just ask. If you want to escape this kingdom, I can help you. If you want to protect your friends and fight in the war, I will support you. If you hesitate to strike someone down, I will stand by your side." Rimuru spoke with complete confidence. Shizuku stared at him thoughtfully, then said in a playful yet shy tone. "You mean you would destroy an army of 20,000 just to save me?" Wanting to be completely sincere, Rimuru answered directly. Well, sure. Shizuku-chan is a very important friend to me. Shizuku blushed at his direct response, and Rimuru felt a little embarrassed himself. Shizuku shifted closer to him, looked up at the sky as if coming to a decision, and stood up, clenching her fist with determination. All right, I think I've decided. I'm going to fight in this war, not to kill demons, but to protect my friends. Ooh. Rimuru clapped his hands, impressed by her resolve. All right, I don't think I'll train right now. I'm getting hungry, so I'll grab something to eat. See you later, Shizuku-chan. Wait, Rimuru-kun. Ah, what is it? If you want, you can go back to calling me Shizuku-chan in public again. Besides... Her face turned bright red as she stepped closer and wrapped her arms around him in a tight hug. Thank you so much. Rimuru flushed red as well, feeling a bit flustered by how tightly she held him. Isn't this reaction a bit much? She can't actually be interested in me, can she? Well, even if she is, I'm already engaged back home. I can't do that. Sile-san, show me pictures of my beloved, quick. No pictures. What do you mean there are no pictures? What about all the ones taken on our dates? They have been deleted. You sneaky. Aloud, Rimuru managed to stammer, that's good. I'll be going then, Shizuku-chan. Rimuru-kun, do you want to head over to the training grounds together today? She asked, still blushing. Rimuru agreed, and the two walked to the training area together. Hajime was walking toward the training field. When he arrived, several students were already practicing or chatting. He picked up a wooden practice sword provided for training, but suddenly felt a heavy hit to his back. Stumbling forward, he turned around and frowned. Hayama's gang was standing behind him. They always caused trouble for Hajime during practice. Yo, Nagumo! What are you even doing? It makes no sense for you to hold a sword when you're completely useless. Hey, Hayama, don't be so harsh, even if it's true. He. If I were you, I'd be too embarrassed to even show up to train. The group burst into laughter again. Hey, Nagumo, since I'm such a nice guy, I'll train with you. Yeah, we'll all help you train, Nagumo. Hajime tried to decline, but they refused to listen and began throwing low-level magic attacks at him. Hajime could only curse his own weakness. Just as Hayama was about to strike Hajime with the hilt of his sword, he was stopped in his tracks by a figure stepping between them, long blue hair, a dark coat, a white mask with black and red details, and a straight sword on his back. It was Rimuru. Hi. What do you guys think you're doing? As he spoke, Rimuru pulled off the mask and released a fraction of his demon lord aura, causing every student nearby to break out in a cold sweat. Rimuru had told Hajime he wouldn't interfere anymore, but he felt the gang had gone way too far this time. Hajime's injuries could have been severe. Before Rimuru could do anything further, a voice echoed across the field that frightened the gang even more than the sudden heavy atmosphere. Hey! What are you guys doing? It was Kaori, arriving alongside Ryutaru and Kuki. Shizuku was already walking up beside Rimuru. No. Please don't misunderstand. We were just helping Nagumo with his training. Nagumo-kun. Kaori ignored Hayama's excuses and rushed to Hajime, who was crouching on the ground and coughing. Special training? Rimuru asked coldly. Yes, it's just that. Shut up. I don't care about your excuses. Get lost. Hayama and his gang hurried away. Under the glow of Kaori's healing magic, Hajime's injuries quickly healed. Thank you, Shirasaki-san. I'm fine now. Does this happen often? If it does, I'm going to... Kaori glared in the direction Hayama's group had fled. No, it's not always like this. Really, I'm okay. Hajime reassured her with a smile, and she finally backed down. Nagumo-kun, if you ever have any problems, feel free to tell me. If not me, you can always talk to Kaori, Shizuku offered. Hajime thanked her, but Kuki stepped forward and added his own input. Still, Nagumo, you should train harder. Apologizing won't help you get stronger. I heard you spend all your time in the library. If you trained seriously and grew stronger, Hayama's gang wouldn't pick on you anymore. How am I supposed to respond to that? Hajime thought. Kuki was the type of person who believed people were fundamentally good and that genuine malice didn't exist. Hajime was far too exhausted to argue, so he simply let out a long sigh. Shizuku, who understood the situation, apologized softly to Hajime. Sorry. He doesn't mean any harm. Ah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just then, Captain Meld gathered everyone together. All right, gather around, everyone. The students approached as Meld made his announcement. Tomorrow, we head to the Great Orcus Labyrinth for field training. Chapter 5, Orcus. The Orcus dungeon is a labyrinth with hundreds of floors, filled with magical beasts. The further down you go, the stronger the monsters become. The upper floors of the dungeon are very famous and attract many mercenaries who collect magic nuclei from weak monsters. However, the lower floors are extremely dangerous and have never been fully explored. Magic stones or magic nuclei are energy crystals found in various sizes, used to create magic circles, healing wells, and mana springs. At the moment, the students were staying at an inn near the dungeon, resting so they would be full of energy when they entered the labyrinth tomorrow. Hajime was the only student with a room to himself. His classmates were all paired up in rooms for two. Well, at least this way I can get some real rest, Hajime muttered to himself, throwing his body onto the bed. He was about to close his eyes and fall asleep when he heard a knock at the door. Knock, knock. Hajime-kun, can I come in? It was Kaori's voice. What does she want at this hour? Hajime wondered as he stood up and opened the door. Kaori was standing there wearing explicit sleepwear. It was covered in most places, but sheer and transparent across several parts of her body. Hajime did his absolute best not to stare, forcing his voice to remain steady. Oh, hi, Shirasaki-san. Why are you here? Kaori tilted her head in confusion at his reaction. What do you mean? I just want to talk, Nagumo-kun. No, it's nothing. You can come in. She walked into the room and sat down while Hajime prepared tea. When it was ready, he poured a cup for Kaori and one for himself. Kaori thanked him, then spoke up. About the trip to the dungeon tomorrow? I want you to stay here. I will persuade the instructors and our classmates, so please. She pleaded with Hajime, who sat perplexed. Even if he was considered useless, wasn't asking him to stay behind going a bit too far? Maybe you're right, Hajime replied softly. I know I'm a burden, maybe I really should just stay here. You're wrong. It's not because you're a burden. Kaori tried to undo the misunderstanding. She realized she might sound harsh, but Hajime didn't take it that way. Kaori took a deep breath, placing a hand over her chest. That was very sudden, I'm sorry. It's just that when I slept earlier, I had a dream. It was about you, Nagumo-kun. I was calling out to you, but you didn't realize it. I couldn't reach you, and in the end, you disappeared. I see. If Hajime stayed behind, the friction with his classmates would only get worse. He would certainly not be welcome. He had no real choice but to enter the dungeon. Even if Kaori had a bad dream, Hajime knew his classmates wouldn't accept that as a valid reason for him to stay at the inn. A dream is just a dream, Shirasaki-san, Hajime said reassuringly. This time we have the Royal Knights to protect us, and we also have exceptionally strong people like my brother and Kuki. Besides, our party composition is amazing, I almost feel bad for our enemies. I'm the only weak one here. I wonder if you had that dream simply because you're worried about me. Kaori looked down, her expression full of concern. If you're really that worried, then. Hajime looked Kaori in the eye, feeling slightly embarrassed. Are you going to protect me? Shirasaki-san is a healer, right? If I get hurt, you can heal me. As long as you're around, you can protect me with your magic, can't you? Hajime spoke with a sheepish smile. He was embarrassed to ask a girl for protection, but he wanted to put her mind at ease. They looked at each other in silence for a moment before Kaori let out a soft chuckle. You really never change, Nagumo-kun. Hajime looked confused, which only made Kaori laugh more. Nagumo-kun, you probably think we first met back in middle school, but I actually saw you for the first time in elementary school. Hajime was surprised. No matter how hard he searched his memories, he couldn't recall meeting her back then. When I saw you, you were protesting in the middle of the street. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, Kaori said warmly. You were surrounded by suspicious, intimidating men. Even when they pushed you down, you didn't stop standing up for what was right. In the end, they walked away completely bewildered. I can't believe you saw such an embarrassing scene, Hajime said with an awkward smile. Kaori looked at him with gentle, affectionate eyes. No, it wasn't unpleasant at all. When I saw you that day, I thought you were incredibly strong and kind. Who? Hajime blinked, wondering if she had some strange perspective on things. It's because you were standing up for an elderly grandmother and her grandson, Kaori explained. Hajime suddenly remembered the incident. He had been walking home from school when he saw a group of delinquents harassing a little boy and his grandmother because the child had accidentally spilled ice cream on someone's shirt. Hajime had stepped in without hesitation. The next day, the students reached the 20th floor of the Orcus dungeon. Kuki, Rimuru, Meld, and the knights stood guard against monster attacks. On the way down, the students had fought off several magical beasts. Kuki, Rimuru, Kaori, Shizuku, and Ryutaru fought on the front line alongside Meld, while the rest of the students formed the middle rank and the royal knights guarded the perimeter. The knights let the students do most of the fighting to gain practical experience, stepping in only to keep them safe. They even weakened a few monsters so Hajime could deliver the finishing blow. The knights were thoroughly impressed by Hajime's ingenuity. He used his transmutation ability to manipulate the stone floor, trapping monsters' feet before closing in with his dagger. Of course, Rimuru was the most breathtaking combatant, slicing through magical beasts as if they were made of paper. Along the way, the students were issued sacred artifacts to enhance their abilities. Kuki received the sacred sword, a legendary blade that could only be wielded by the hero, along with the kingdom's finest armor. The other students received high-grade gear, and even Hajime was given a specialized glove that reduced the mana cost of his synergist skills. Rimuru was offered high-level armor and weapons as well, but he declined, demonstrating his mana materialization skill. In an instant, a sleek black combat outfit formed around him, complete with a straight katana on his back and a detailed white mask covering his face. Everyone was amazed by the sheer convenience and durability of his created attire. Kaori received a staff that boosted her healing efficiency. Shizuku, being a swordswoman, had hoped for a katana but received a high-grade rapier. Ryutaru received heavy gauntlets forged from ultra-dense alloy to complement his brawler class. Throughout the trek, Kaori constantly checked on Hajime. Whenever their eyes met, she offered him a warm, encouraging smile that made him turn away in embarrassment. However, Hajime wasn't turning away solely out of shyness. Every time he met Kaori's gaze, a sharp chill ran down his spine, as if an intense, hostile gaze were staring at the back of his neck. But whenever he glanced around, everyone seemed occupied. While the group paused to rest and drink water, Kaori smiled gently at Hajime again. Shizuku noticed and teased her in a whisper. Hey, Kaori, why do you keep staring at Nagumo-kun? Are you trying to start a dungeon romance? Shizuku-chan. Don't talk nonsense. Kaori blushed furiously. I was just checking to see if Nagumo-kun was doing okay, that's all. Shizuku giggled at Kaori's reaction, clearly enjoying herself. Kaori puffed out her red cheeks in protest. I'm serious. Hajime watched them from a distance until that unsettling chill ran down his neck once more. Who is looking at me like that? He wondered with a quiet sigh. Once everyone finished resting, the party proceeded into the final chamber of the 20th floor. The room possessed unusual geological features, its high ceiling and walls covered in sharp stalactite formations. Seeing no monsters upon entering, the students began to relax, but Commander Meld's sharp command instantly restored their tension. Stay alert! They're camouflaged! The rocky wall suddenly bulged and deformed. A massive gorilla-like entity composed entirely of compacted stone leaped from the wall, crashing down toward them. Watch out for its arms! Meld yelled. The stone golem swung at Kuki, but Ryutaru intercepted the strike with his heavy gauntlets. Shizuku and Kuki flanked the creature simultaneously, their synchronized heavy attacks shattering the golem into rubble. Nearby, Commander Meld sliced through two more golems with his broadsword. Rimuru drew his katana, igniting the blade with black flames, and cleanly bisected three golems in a single sweep. Privately, he used his ability, Gluttonous King Beelzebub, to absorb one of the falling constructs so Sile could analyze its structure. The rest of the students and knights cleared out the remaining smaller golems with ease. Suddenly, a terrifying roar echoed from the back of the cavern. Grua! A massive golem, 3 times larger than the others, emerged from the shadow of the back wall. Its body was composed of polished black metal, and it immediately unleashed an intimidation skill that sent a wave of pressure across the room. The creature surged forward with terrifying speed. Kaori, Eri, and Suzu froze in fear at the monster's grotesque form, their spell incantations faltering as they gasped. Hey! Focus! This is a real battle! Meld shouted. The girls snapped back to reality, stammering apologies. Seeing their reaction, Kuki felt a surge of righteous fury. How dare you frighten them? I won't forgive you. Mistaking their disgust for helplessness, Kuki raised his glowing blade. Reach for the skies, rising lightning. You idiot, stop! Don't use that here. Meld yelled. Ignoring the commander's warning, Kuki unleashed a massive blade of concentrated light. The beam pulverized the metal golem instantly and slammed into the cavern wall behind it, causing heavy structural vibrations and sending showers of stone tumbling down. Kuki turned toward the girls with a proud, heroic smile. But before he could say a word, Commander Meld marched over and delivered a sharp smack to the back of his head. Oh! You fool! Don't unleash high-tier area attacks inside an underground chamber. What would you have done if the entire ceiling collapsed on us? Kuki bowed his head in embarrassment while the girls offered awkward smiles to comfort him. As the dust settled, a soft luminescence caught everyone's attention from the crater Kuki's attack had carved into the wall. Meld-san, what is that? Kaori asked, pointing toward the glowing formation. Embedded in the rock was a massive, sparkling crystal that radiated a beautiful diamond-like light. Aho, that's a France crystal, Meld explained, adjusting his stance. One of that size is exceptionally rare. Its beauty makes it highly prized among nobility, so it commands a massive price. It's breathtaking, Kaori murmured, stealing a shy glance at Hajime. Shizuku caught the look and smiled knowingly. If it's that valuable, we should harvest it. Hayama shouted excitedly. Before anyone could stop him, he scrambled up the pile of rubble toward the glowing stone. Hey! Stop right there. We haven't checked the area for traps yet. Meld roared. Hayama ignored the warning and reached out, pressing his palm against the crystal. At that exact second, a knight holding a detection artifact yelled in terror. Commander! It's an active teleportation trap. A blinding flash engulfed the chamber. When the light faded, the students found themselves standing on an ancient, massive stone bridge suspended over an endless abyss. At the far end of the bridge, a giant magic circle flared to life. Out of the glowing light stepped a gigantic, demonic bull with dark blue skin and massive yellow horns, the behemoth. It was so massive that its shoulders nearly brushed both edges of the bridge. Grua! The monster let out a deafening, floor-shaking roar. A behemoth. Commander Meld gasped in shock. At the opposite end of the bridge, another array of magic circles activated, summoning dozens of undead skeletal warriors to block their retreat. Damn it! Rimuru, Kuki, form a defensive line with me. Knights, prepare to wait. What? Mel turned around, his face turning pale. Neither Rimuru nor the Royal Knights were on the bridge. Only Meld and the students had been transported to this location. Meanwhile, Rimuru opened his eyes in a pitch-black stone chamber. The darkness posed no obstacle to him, as his magic perception provided a complete three-dimensional view of his surroundings regardless of light levels. Lying on the floor around him were the lifeless bodies of the Royal Knights. Analysis complete, Sile's voice echoed in his mind. Cause of death, extreme concentration of ambient magicules. Rimuru was stunned. This world did not naturally contain magicules, relying instead on a completely different system of mana. Where could such a dense concentration of magicules have come from? Additionally, Sile reported, the original destination of the teleportation trap was altered. A powerful external spell interfered with the transit, diverting you and the knights to this secluded chamber. Before Rimuru could respond, his magic perception picked up a figure stepping out from the shadows. It was a man clad in green and black robes with pale white hair, blood-red eyes, and a terrifying, skeletal face. He held a gleaming double-edged dagger in his hand. Rimuru immediately identified him as the source of the lethal magicules that had killed the knights. The skeletal man walked over to one of the fallen knights, callously severed the corpse's head, and incinerated the body with black flames. He sat down on a nearby rock, using the skull as a whetstone for his dagger as he looked up at Rimuru with a sinister grin. So, you are the so-called Demon Lord Rimuru, are you? He sneered in an arrogant, raspy voice. Chapter 6, The Bull and the Idiot. Meld was in crisis, and it was understandable why. 10 meters in diameter, with bluish skin, scarlet eyes, and 2 bull horns, it was a behemoth. There used to be a group of adventurers who called themselves the strongest. It was not out of arrogance, they really were the strongest adventurers. The group of 20 adventurers entered the Orcus dungeon declaring that they would dominate it, but only one of these adventurers returned. The cause of this was the creature that stood in the last room on the 65th floor. There was only one person alive who had met the behemoth in person, Meld Loggins, the surviving adventurer. That day, Meld saw true fear. This creature had slaughtered his friends, but Meld had no desire for revenge. On the contrary, Meld was thinking about how to escape from this place as fast as possible, for he knew that the hero and his group had no chance against this creature at their current level. If Rimuru and the knights were here, they could have a great chance of escape with Rimuru, Meld, and Kuki slowing the behemoth down while the knights made their way among the skeletons. But now, there were only him and the students here. He knew that the students would not be able to battle the skeletons. As they trained on the upper floors, Meld realized that most of them were easily frightened by the monsters. In this unfamiliar situation, they were not going to be able to kill all those skeletons. Shit! Kuki and his group, make your way between those skeletons while I hold this thing. Meld-san, I'll help you. Let's kill this monster. Idiot! That monster killed the strongest adventurers that ever lived. You don't stand a chance with him. Still, I can't abandon you. Me too. Kuki and Ryutaru spoke confidently. Meld realized that they were not going to give up and began to prepare for battle. The rest of the students were being attacked by the skeletons. They were too scared to have any combat coordination, so they were simply attacking frantically. Hajime was scared too, but he did not lose his composure. He realized that they had to run away when he felt the pressure emitted by the giant bull. He was killing the skeletons by making them slide off the bridge and fall into the chasm below. Suddenly, he saw that the girl next to him was about to be attacked. He used transmute on the ground and made the skeleton slide. One of the students took the opportunity and killed the skeleton. Meanwhile, Hajime supported the back of the girl who was lying on the ground. "Look, don't worry. They are not that strong if you calm down. Besides, everyone but me is very strong." He said that and gave a smile to reassure her. "Thank you." Hajime helped her up and then rushed off in Kuki's direction. When he got there, he saw Meld injecting mana into his sword that was wedged into the ground while forming a barrier, preventing the behemoth from getting through. However, the barrier was almost in pieces. Meanwhile, Kuki and his group were discussing whether to retreat or not. "Amanagawa, we need your help." While the students were fighting with the skeletons, the behemoth attacked once again, and the barrier was beginning to give way. "Ku! The barrier won't hold. Kuki, hurry back. You too. No. We must all come back alive." Commander Meld's expression was bitter. The best option now was to run away while the barrier was standing, because in a narrow space they would not be able to dodge the attacks. But only experienced people knew that, and Kuki was too stubborn to obey him. In addition, Kuki wanted to challenge the behemoth. Kuki thought that if it was him, he might be able to overcome this monster. But Meld knew that he was overestimating himself. During training, Meld would always praise them so the students would keep their confidence high, but it seems he overdid it. "Kuki, let's back off." Shizuku, who understood the gravity of the situation, tried to pull Kuki so they could back off. This is not the first time Kuki has been irrational. "I will help you." "Thank you, Ryutaru." The muscle-brained encouragement only made the situation worse, making Shizuku click her tongue. "Are you guys drunk? Understand the situation, you big idiots." The moment she saw Shizuku nervous, Kaori became even more anxious, not knowing what to do. "Grua ha!" The behemoth attacked the barrier once again, making it give way even more. At this moment, Hajime arrived. "Amanagawa, we need help." "Who? Nagumo?" "Nagumo-kun." They were surprised by Hajime's arrival. "Hurry up and retreat. They need you." "What are you saying?" "Don't worry about it, leave everything to us." "This is not the time for that kind of thing." Hajime grabbed Kuki by the collar and pointed at his colleagues while looking at him with a serious glare. They are bewildered because they don't have their leader with them. "You need to go there, or they will get hurt." Kuki looked at his colleagues who were scared, fighting the skeletons. "All right. Commander, we will come back for you. Wait for us." Kuki and his group went to help their colleagues. Meld thanked Hajime and was about to give him an order, but Hajime spoke first. "Meld-san, I have a plan." Meld was confused, but Hajime explained his plan. "Can you do it?" "Yes." Seeing Hajime's determination and confidence, Meld had no choice but to accept. "All right, boy. We'll come back to save you. Now go." When Meld said this, he withdrew the sword that was stuck in the ground and began to recite an incantation. At the same time, Hajime ran toward the behemoth from the edge of the bridge so as not to hinder Meld's attack. When Hajime was close to the behemoth, Meld's sword glowed and he launched a large horizontal blade of light that struck the behemoth's head, causing it to lower its stance. When the behemoth did this, it felt the ground around it pin it down. Its paws, head, and horns were stuck in the earth. The cause of this was Hajime. He had waited for the behemoth to lower its head and use transmute to trap it. When Meld saw that the plan worked, he turned to help destroy the skeletons. "Assume positions. Don't forget your training. Those bones are nothing to us, attack with everything." When the students heard the voice of their trusted commander, they regained some of their calm and began to fight properly. With Meld and Kuki's group, they quickly managed to finish off the skeletons and reach the stairs. But before they went up, Meld shouted, "Wait!" They looked at him with expressions that said, "The escape route is right here, why do we have to wait?" "We have to help the Hajime boy." He is holding the monster for us. They were confused when Meld said that the useless one was holding the monster by himself. Then, they looked in the direction Meld pointed, and there was Hajime holding the behemoth back. Nagumo-kun. When Kaori saw the danger Hajime was in, she was shocked and remembered the dream she had last night. Any moment now, he will run out of mana and come here as fast as possible. While he's doing that, cast your long-range spells on the creature to slow him down. Hajime was using transmutation to hold the behemoth back. Every time the behemoth tried to escape, he reinforced the ground by repeating the spell, and whenever he was almost out of mana, he ate a magic pill. He used his last transmutation when he saw his colleagues ready to cast their spells, and then he ran as fast as he could. The students were casting their long-range spells. Hayama was about to aim his fireball at the behemoth when he remembered something. Last night, Hayama was anxious and couldn't sleep, so he went outside for some air. When he came back, he heard Kaori's voice coming from Hajime's room. He hid and saw that Kaori was in her pajamas saying goodbye to Hajime. And then today, Kaori kept looking at Hajime and smiling at him. As he remembered these events, a dark feeling grew inside him, and a troubled smile appeared on his face as he changed his target. Hajime was running. He looked back and saw the behemoth advancing, but he was also somewhat reassured because at this rate, if his colleagues hit the behemoth with spells, he had a great chance of escape. Hajime then saw the behemoth retreating because of the rain of spells passing over him. But when Hajime looked forward again, he saw a fireball coming straight toward him. Why is it coming this way? He was knocked down by the fireball and tried to get up, but he stopped when he heard the behemoth's breathing. That breath was really close, in fact, it was right next to him. The behemoth was looking at him angrily and attacked him with its horns. Hajime managed to dodge it, but the attack hit the floor of the bridge and caused it to give way. He and the behemoth fell into the abyss whose bottom you couldn't even see. Nagumo-kun. Kaori screamed and tried to jump down to save him, but she was held back by Kuki and Shizuku. Stop, Kaori! You can't go there. Let me go. I need to save him. Nagumo-kun. Kaori screamed as she tried to jump. Shizuku, who was holding her, thought, how does she have so much strength? Meld approached and slammed the edge of his hand into the back of Kaori's head, causing her to faint. Meld-san, you didn't need to do that. No, Kuki. He did right. Thank you, Meld-san. We can't lose anyone else. Meld spoke in a heavy voice. Going back in time a little, in another room on the 65th floor. Rimuru was surprised. Not only did this man in front of him use magic from his universe as a source of power, but he also knew his true identity. He had many questions for this man. Hey, how did you? He tried to speak, but was interrupted by an arrogant laugh. Ha ha ha. I can't believe those bigwigs were so afraid of you. They went crazy when you arrived ahead of time, formulating various plans. I thought you were supposed to be strong. But apparently, you have nothing to do with your temporal magic sealed, do you? I'll make you my servant, and then they'll have to respect me. Ha 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 ha. He finished with another laugh. Rimuru thought to himself, he wants me to become his servant? Wait, why does he think I'm weak? Sile answered, it's because of me. I can cause interference in almost all techniques used to measure power, so he must think you have the strength of a normal human. I get it. But how does he know that my temporal magic has been sealed? There is a high probability that those he refers to as bigwigs are the ones responsible for sealing this magic and interfering with my analysis of the laws of this universe. I see. Wait, he said that those bigwigs were scared because I arrived early, so they were planning to call me to this world and ambush me. The probability is high. So, since I came here together with the heroes group, they have to form a new plan. But then, why did they send this weak guy to give away this information? Rimuru was right. This laughing guy in front of him had the strength of a pseudo-demon lord, which to most people would be strong, but to Rimuru, this guy was just a source of information. So why was he sent here? They probably didn't send him here. There is a good chance that he is acting on his own, Sile noted. Ah, I get it. He wants to capture me to show off in front of his bosses. So this guy is an idiot. I see. Well, at least we'll get some information. Rimuru turned off the thought acceleration he was using to talk to Sile and declared, "Hey, you." Who? The man stopped laughing when Rimuru called out to him. Yeah, you. What? You're an idiot. Ha ha ha. What nonsense are you saying? You are the idiot here. Kiss my boots and I'll forgive you for it. I'll even let you live as my slave. Who? I don't need your forgiveness. I just want your information. But don't worry, I already know you'll say something like I won't talk even if I'm dead, but I've learned to extract memories, so don't worry about answering. How dare you underestimate me? Take that. 1,000 blades of death. After he said this, his dagger began to glow red. He threw it up, and it multiplied into several blades that attacked Rimuru. Ha! I offered him servitude, but he dared to underestimate me, so I had to kill him. Actually, I don't even think I needed to use my strongest attack. That was your strongest attack? I didn't think so. Ha! What do you mean, no big deal? Look how easily he died. There's no way he's alive. Then who are you talking to? The idiot began to break into a cold sweat and slowly turned around to look back, only to see Rimuru unharmed. How? It was simple, really. Rimuru just used his absolute barrier. This man's attack was really weak. Well, it doesn't matter how I did it. Time for information. Rimuru approached while using his new skill, God of Souls Hades. This was a superior skill that Rimuru and Sile created by unifying the supreme skills Hell King Belial and Lustful King Asmodeus. The Hell King Belial skill was a power that ruled over life and death, but with more focus on the death aspect. It originally belonged to Testarossa, one of Rimuru's servants. When Rimuru and Sile wanted to analyze her skill, she said, "With pleasure, sir." The Lustful King Asmodeus skill was also a power over life and death, but it leaned more toward the life side. This skill was in the possession of the demon lord Luminous Valentine. Rimuru had to agree to some conditions to get her permission. He had to agree to help rebuild her kingdom and send an invitation to her wedding. He only agreed because Sile was really excited to analyze the skill. When Sile unified these skills, it created God of Souls Hades. It is a skill that has great control over souls and can scour memories, revive people if you have their soul, or swap their bodies. When Rimuru discovered the powers of this skill, he found it a little scary, but said, "There's nothing to be done." Rimuru was beginning to rummage through the idiot's memories when the man stated, "Now I realize how stupid I was. Well, at least I will die a good death." As he spoke, he pulled a black crystal from his jacket and crushed it. "Stop!" Rimuru tried to stop him, but could not. That was a death crystal. It would burn the user's body and soul if they injected mana, lowered their defenses, and crushed it. And to think he would have a death crystal. I wonder why he had one of those. Probably to avoid leaking information, Sile replied. But those crystals are pretty rare, right? Yes. Normally, he would carry a normal disintegration crystal, which is easier to find and less painful to use, but that crystal would leave his soul intact. The use of the soul-burning death crystal means that he knows about your ability to extract memories from the soul. Well, if they knew I didn't need the body to extract information, it makes sense for them to use a death crystal. But how could they know about my ability if you interfere with analytical skills? There is a high chance that they got the information from someone who knows the master's abilities. There aren't many people I've told about this skill. Well, no use thinking about it now. Did you get any information before he smashed the crystal? Only the name his bosses are publicly known by. Eh? Publicly? I've never heard of such powerful people in this world. Master, they are known as gods. Rimuru was silent for a moment. Let's go find the other students, Rimuru thought and continued on his way. Rimuru broke through the door and saw a portal. He went through the portal after Sile confirmed it was safe. At the same time, in a place far away inside a golden castle, there was a blonde man holding a crystal ball that transmitted images. He took his time to act, and when he found the person he was looking for, he discovered that this person had already used his death crystal. Yet, the man seemed to have revealed some information to their greatest threat. Shit! I should have killed that idiot when I had the chance. He threw the crystal ball at the wall angrily, causing it to shatter. This blonde man was the boss of the one who tried to kill Rimuru. Apparently, even among the gods, the white-haired man was called an idiot. I have to report this. After speaking, the man headed toward the throne room. After bowing, he reported what had happened regarding the idiot to the man on the throne. The man on the throne had a young appearance, but carried the aura of an experienced ruler. He was wearing casual clothes that didn't really match his position, but no one would dare comment on it. After hearing the report, the man on the throne spoke. Ahito, I told you that this man would cause trouble. Why didn't you kill him? The man spoke in a calm but powerful voice. I thought that if he awakened as a true demon lord, he might be a good tool. Ahito spoke as he broke into a cold sweat, wondering what his punishment would be. The man on the throne was not someone to be trifled with. Ahito, this is already your second mistake. When you went to summon those children to play in your little world, you summoned our greatest enemy and ruined the plan. Now this. The blonde man, Ahito, swallowed dryly. I will let you go without punishment this time. Since you think an awakened demon lord might be useful, I'll give you this. The powerful man with indigo-colored hair and eyes pulled a black orb from his clothes and handed it to Ahito. This is. Release that into your little world and let it do the rest of the work. Ahito knew the chaos this could cause, but he didn't care about that. He was just happy not to receive punishment. Yes. Velda-sama. The leader of the gods, the one who stands above Ahito, was well known for his immense power, Velda. Chapter 7, The Monster of the Abyss. Hajime woke up with water hitting his face. What? I thought I was dead. He looked around. He was in a river with a relatively strong current. This river was probably my salvation, he muttered as he looked up. He saw a rounded stone ceiling, it was probably a cave. Looks like the current carried me away. When he got a better look, he realized he was in an underground cave lit by crystals of green light. The cave had many plants, but Hajime didn't see any animals or monsters. This cave was very different from the other floors of the dungeon. It was less artificial, with rounded walls and dense vegetation. Looks like I got lucky. Is there any way I can go back? Hajime encouraged himself to continue forward to look for a way back. 20 minutes later, Hajime heard a sound and hid behind a rock. He spied on the place where the sound came from, and there he saw a small red-eyed rabbit. Aren't there supposed to be super strong monsters down here? Hajime thought. Suddenly, a grey wolf with red details approached the rabbit. Red electric sparks came out of its back as it attacked. Totally against Hajime's expectations, the rabbit dodged easily. The wolf used its electrical discharge skill to attack while the rabbit was in the air, but to yet another surprise, the rabbit propelled itself onto an invisible platform in the air using its aerodynamics skill. It used aerodynamics once again and kicked the wolf, killing it on the spot. Who? Hajime put his hand in front of his mouth to cover his cry, but it didn't work, and the white rabbit took off to attack him. It delivered a flying kick at Hajime, who defended against it with his left arm. Shit! Hajime was thinking about how to survive while the rabbit seemed to be having fun. The rabbit was about to go on the attack once again, but then it stopped. It stared at the top of Hajime's head, or so it seemed, but Hajime noticed the rabbit was actually looking at something behind him. When Hajime turned around, he saw a white bear with huge claws and red eyes. It was walking on two legs while looking at Hajime and the rabbit as if choosing its prey. Hajime realized that this bear in front of him was not normal. It possessed an overwhelming pressure that far surpassed the behemoth. The rabbit attacked, but it was torn apart by the bear's claws in seconds. Meanwhile, Hajime froze. That kicking rabbit could easily kill the behemoth with the force of its kick, but the bear in front of him treated it as a nuisance at best. Hajime couldn't move because of the terrifying look the bear gave him as it ate the rabbit. The bear swallowed the rabbit whole and stood up, slowly walking toward him. The bear seemed to say, "You're next." Arf! Hajime used all his strength to run, but it was useless. The bear's claws glowed, and it made a vertical slash in the air. 3 lights went straight at Hajime, similar to Kuki's light swords, but smaller. The curved light claws flew toward Hajime and hit his left arm. Gwa! Hajime fell from the impact. He coughed to try to catch his breath. He was dazed from the pain and the fall, but what he saw in front of him made him forget all that. The bear was eating something. What is it eating? Hajime thought, and then he realized that his left arm felt strangely light. He looked down, and it was no longer there. Hajime's brain and heart tried to escape reality, but it was impossible. The pain woke him up to reality, and he began to instinctively crawl backward. Ugh! Hajime's scream echoed through the dungeon. He began to crawl backward as fast as he could to get away from the white bear. The bear finished its meal and began to slowly walk toward him. The bear extended its paws toward Hajime as if it planned to swallow him whole. Oh! Transmute! With his tear-covered face taking a desperate gamble, Hajime put his hand on the wall behind him and used transmutation out of pure fear. The ability created a hole that the bear couldn't get through, but Hajime could. However, the bear wouldn't give up so easily. It began to break the wall with its claws in anger at having its prey escape. Grua! The wall was shattered by the claw magic. Transmute! 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 Hajime completely forgot about the pain and everything else. He could only run away as his instincts commanded him. Transmute! 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 Hajime used every last mana point to escape the bear, and it seemed to have worked. The bear gave up on breaking the wall and walked away. Ah, I'm going to die, right? Hajime muttered in disgust as he looked at the bleeding on his arm. There was no way he could stay alive like this. Hajime felt his consciousness fading. As he fainted, Hajime recalled his memories of the past. His life flashed before his eyes, from elementary school, to moments with his family, to that moment with Cory in the moonlight. Then, he felt something drip on his face like tears, and he passed out. Feeling the sensation of liquid in his mouth, Hajime slowly regained consciousness. Why am I alive? While remembering the events, Hajime asked himself this question. He tried to get up, but hit his head. Who? Just at that moment, he remembered that the hole he was in was small and did not allow much movement. He felt a phantom pain in his non-existent arm, and out of reflex, he pressed on the wound. Is it healed? How? Hajime felt a pool of blood surrounding him. Anyone who lost that amount of blood should have died on the spot. At this moment, another drop of liquid fell on his cheek and dripped into his mouth. Hajime noticed that the moment the drop entered his mouth, he felt a little more recovered. This is... Hajime endured the pain and raised his right arm to use transmute on the ceiling. When he used it, he saw a blue light coming from a crystal. This crystal was the size and shape of a soccer ball, and it released the liquid that recovered Hajime. Hajime was fascinated by the beautiful crystal that saved his life. He moved closer to drink more of the healing liquid. When Hajime took more of the water, all his pain and fatigue went away. Hajime didn't know that this was actually the greatest of all treasures in history. It was a rare magical stone that sucked mana through the air for millennia until it was formed, called the Divine Crystal. It took hundreds of years to transform this magical power into a liquid called ambrosia. It was said that drinking it would heal all wounds and diseases, and if you drank it constantly, you would gain eternal life. Hajime crawled to the wall and cringed in fear of the creatures that would be outside if he left. Both his heart and mind were broken. He could only remember the look on the clawed bear's face. That look broke any determination Hajime had. Now, he had nowhere to go. "Someone, save me." Those words reached no one. Hajime lay hugging his knees. It was the 4th day he had been like this. He barely moved these past few days. Even though the ambrosia kept him alive, it didn't satisfy his hunger, and Hajime spent all this time starving while the liquid sustained him. He was also left feeling severe pain in his phantom limb. Why did I end up like this? He thought about this several times. While suffering hunger and phantom pain, he could only ponder his fate. After suffering for so long, he decided to stop drinking ambrosia and take the easy way out. But then, no. I want to live. He didn't know why, but he couldn't let himself die. He plunged into thought once again. It was the 7th day since Hajime arrived at the cave. Hajime was still suffering heavily from hunger, but the fear of leaving was much stronger. Why don't I die? Hurry. No, I don't want to die. On the 8th day, Hajime's mind began to undergo a shift. Oscillating between wishing to die and wanting to live, Hajime began to have dark thoughts. Why do I have to suffer so much? I didn't do anything to deserve this. I was kidnapped, my colleague betrayed me, and a monster ate my arm. During these past few days, while thinking about what brought him here, Hajime remembered the fireball that hit him. There was no way one of his powerful classmates could have accidentally messed up a spell that coincidentally hit him. Someone did it on purpose, and he had a good guess who it was, the boy who tormented him every day out of jealousy over Cory. On the 9th day, Hajime's thoughts turned even darker. Who did this to me? Who hurt me? Who forced all these irrational events on me? Hajime began to look for an enemy. All these horrible events ate away at his soul. Why didn't anyone come to help me? What must I do to make this pain go away? What do I want? I want to live. Who is stopping me? The enemy. Who is the enemy? Those who get in my way. What should I do with them? Without realizing it, Hajime began to talk to himself and answer his own questions. Day 10. There was no longer a grudge in Hajime's mind against God or his traitorous classmate. All that remained was the memory of the girl who said she would protect him, and the memory of his family. That's right, she said she would protect me, didn't she? So why am I here? She is the reason my life turned terrible in the first place. When he saw that memory fade, only the memory of his family was left. That's right. I just want to go home. I want to find my brother and go home with him. Anyone who stops me is my enemy. Anyone who becomes my enemy, I will kill. 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 Without realizing it, he began to speak these words. There was no malice, hatred, or hostility in his voice, it was simply pure murderous intent. Just kill to survive. Everyone who got in his way was going to die. That was the conclusion he came to. And so, the monster of the abyss was born. Now, Hajime decided to leave the tunnel. He first needed to eat to regain his strength, so he decided to set a trap. At a certain place in a natural cave of the Orcus dungeon, 2 grey wolves were hiding, waiting for a monster to pass nearby so they could attack. They were hiding 10 meters away from each other behind bushes. This was so that when a monster passed by, they could attack from both sides, making it difficult to defend against. The wolf on the right heard a strange noise coming from where its hunting partner was. It moved closer and saw its friend trapped in a square hole, and then heard a whisper. Transmute. The ground below the wolf warped and dragged it down next to its mate. The wolf looked up and saw a black-haired boy. It tried to scale the wall of the hole to attack the boy, but as it did, transmute. The boy whispered again, and immediately the hole's walls wrapped around the wolves, leaving them motionless. Hajime transmuted a stone spear from the wall and thrust it into the wolf, but the spear did not penetrate the wolf's skin. TSK, I was hoping for more. He used transmute on his spear, turning its tip into a spiral drill. Well, this is going to be painful for you, but I don't care because I'm hungry. He began to twist and thrust the spear while the wolf screamed in pain, letting out red electric sparks from its back trying to electrocute Hajime. But since the spear was made of stone, the electricity couldn't reach him. After killing the wolves, he used a knife to remove their pelts. It would take him too long to make a fire, and he was starving, so he decided to eat the raw meat. When he ate it, how disgusting! The taste of the meat was horrible, but it was better than starving. Ooh! He felt a searing pain run through his entire body. It was then that he remembered monster meat contained mana that was deadly to humans. But he had to resist, otherwise, when the ambrosia ran out, he would starve to death. The pain began to worsen, and his muscles began to tear. He took a stone jar he made with transmutation and gathered ambrosia in it. He drank it and began to heal himself, but then the mana from the flesh attacked again, and the ambrosia healed him once more. Healing, breaking, healing, breaking. The pain was so horrible that Hajime began to bang his head against the wall to try to pass out, but the ambrosia prevented him from losing consciousness. After a period of pure torture, the pain stopped. Hajime felt confused and tried to stand up. When he did, he felt his body become lighter. He looked at his reflection in the small stream beside him and saw his hair was now white, his eyes were red, and his body was muscular. He also noticed that his mana, which used to be a faint blue, was now crimson red. What? He looked in his pocket and found his status board, which somehow had not been lost. It showed. Name: Nagumo Hajime. Age: 17. Class: Synergist. Level: 8. Strength: 100. Vitality: 300. Stamina: 100. Agility: 200. Magic power: 300. Magic resistance: 300. New skills: mana manipulation, iron stomach, lightning cloak. Hajime was surprised. His stats had increased dramatically, and he had gained 3 new skills. Mana manipulation. Is that the red magic power? What does it do? Hajime had a hunch, so he tried using transmute. As he expected, he no longer needed to chant or draw a magic circle, just like the monsters. Is this serious? That should be impossible. By the way, eating magical beasts gives me their abilities. Hajime began to look at the descriptions and test his new abilities. Iron Stomach allows you to eat magical beasts' flesh without dying. Lightning Cloak allows the user to utilize lightning magic. I won't have to spend so much holy water. That's good, Hajime thought. He did some tests with Lightning Cloak, but nothing activated. Then he remembered reading in a book that he needed a clear mental image of spells to cast them. He visualized his magic and raised his palm. Red electric beams crackled at the top of his hand. They couldn't be projected like normal magic spells, but they would still be very useful. Hajime took the grey wolf meat and used Lightning Cloak to roast it. When he ate it, it still tasted bad, but he didn't feel any pain. He finished eating and left his temporary base. A day passed, and Hajime moved full steam ahead. He trained his new skills and strength. He also gained a transmutation-derived skill called Mineral Evaluation. Normally, it would take years to develop a derived skill, and he didn't know if he got it so fast because he was from another world or because he ate the flesh of monsters. Hajime examined various minerals around him, finding 3 interesting ores. Green Light Stone, a stone that releases green light when injected with mana. If broken when fueled, all light is released at once. Burning stone, a highly flammable ore that burns when exposed to high temperatures and eventually explodes if the heat continues to increase. Churu metal, a tough black metal with a hardness rating of 8 out of 10. It becomes soft when cooled and strong again when heated. This is it. Hajime celebrated and began his project. After several failures and multiple attempts, he finally succeeded. A loud gunshot echoed at the bottom of the abyss. This gun, which Hajime named Honor, was made with Churu metal and loaded with flintstone ammunition that Hajime ignited using his lightning cloak skill, producing a powerful shot. Hajime used Honor to easily kill a white rabbit similar to the one that had attacked him earlier. He ate the rabbit's meat and checked his status board again. Name: Nagumo Hajime. Age: 17. Class: Synergist. Level: 12. Strength: 200. Vitality: 300. Stamina: 200. Agility: 400. Magic power: 350. Magic resistance: 350. New skills: Divine Step, Aerodynamics, Teleportation. Eating magical beasts increased his stats again, though he didn't get stronger from eating monsters of a species he had already consumed. He immediately tested his new skills. Divine Step allowed him to move at extreme speeds, leaving only a blur behind. Teleportation amplified Divine Step. Aerodynamics allowed him to jump in midair by creating transparent platforms out of mana. Hajime looked at his stats and spoke, "It's time to face my nemesis." He headed toward the place all monsters in the abyss avoided, the lair of the beast. Hajime hid and saw the white bear lying down, finishing a meal. "Well, let's get started," he muttered, stepping out into the open. "Hey, man, how are you? Did my arm taste good?" The bear looked at Hajime with curiosity, its expression seeming to ask, "Did you come here to die?" "Yeah, I came here for revenge. How about we get started?" Hajime raised Honor and fired. The bear deflected the shot on instinct and charged toward Hajime, running in zigzags to avoid being hit. When it came close, Hajime leaped up using Divine Step. "That's it. I am no longer your prey. I am your enemy now." Hajime spoke with a fearless smile and fired again. The bear was fast and managed to dodge the shot, immediately launching its curved claw magic. Hajime dodged with a jump, but the bear instantly launched another attack, assuming Hajime wouldn't be able to dodge while airborne. Hajime used aerodynamics to kick off the air and dodge, firing at the bear once more. Surprised that Hajime could jump in midair, the bear failed to fully dodge, and the shot hit its left arm, blowing it off. How ironic. Hajime picked up the severed arm from the ground and ate a piece of the meat, thinking it would make him stronger so he could win easily. But something unexpected happened. Hajime felt a sharp pain. The flesh of stronger monsters still caused pain, even with his iron stomach skill. Realizing Hajime was vulnerable, the bear prepared to strike, but Hajime stepped forward and slammed a green light stone onto the ground, shattering it and releasing a blinding flash of light. Before the bear could recover, Hajime used lightning cloak on the blood trailing on the ground. The red electric current surged through the bear's blood trail until it reached the beast, electrocuting it to death. Ha! Finally! He had finally killed his enemy. He ate some more of the clawed bear's meat and checked his status. Name: Nagumo Hajime. Age: 17. Class: Synergist. Level: 17. Strength: 300. Vitality: 400. Stamina: 300. Agility: 450. Magic power: 400. Magic resistance: 400. New skills: or smelting, or splitting, air claw. Hajime finished eating and continued on his way.